This is different from other lectures I've done here. This is the oral tradition of telling stories. Where corporations used to say, don't tell me your personal stories, they're now asking for them. CEOs are saying, I don't care which university you went to, I want to know how you're going to fit in, and I'm going to know that by asking you for your stories. Used to be, we would say, the average attention span of a person now is 20 seconds, the amount of time of a TV clip. However, they are now tweeting, and tweeting takes 140 characters, including the spaces. That makes the 20 seconds seem like a trip to the library. And if you think about the words history, think about how that resembles his story. This is how you get your children, your grandchildren, your nieces and nephew, and your family to know the stories that you know. Otherwise, how will they remember you? You want to think about what story you're going to tell, and let me tell you one that came from one of the CEOs. When I was 8 years old, I went to a restaurant. Did you hear this, Nancy? You may not. When I was 8 years old, I went to a restaurant, and they said, everybody's ordering a drink. Would you like a Shirley Temple? And he said, oh, yes. And he said, would you like one cherry or two? And he was a very polite little boy, and he really wanted two, but he said, no, I'll take one. Then all through the meal, he was upset because he could have had two. And what he learned from it was, don't hang back. Ask for what you want. And when I taught graduate school, I was so careful to teach, to not do anything that was personal, to teach the brain, to teach the latest information on language, to go through everything I knew that was the most important, I felt, for them. When I met them later, graduate students who were out, they said, do you know what was the best thing you ever taught us? And each one said the same thing. When you said you came to your grandmother with something terrible that happened to you, and you felt so bad about it, and she said, but it's an experience, which meant you learned something from it. That was what they remembered. So your stories do it for you, and you have to connect them to some kind of a point. Now, if I talk to you, and I talk to you like this, at about this level, and I keep talking to you at this level of power, you can pretty soon tune me out. But the minute I get louder, you're going to pay attention. If I get louder and stay louder, you'll tune me out, so I come back down to soft. But it's always attached to the message. I can tell you a story, and I can tell it to you quickly because people pay attention when you're fast. And I can pause, I can do all of this. But if I stay at the same pace, you're going to go into your own thinking. The minute I go slower, the brain of a human being tends to change. That's why the variation. So it's either pause, or it's pace, or it's power. Once upon a time, there was a traveling salesman, and he had a great sale coming up, and his car broke down. But he had to get there because the sale was worth a fortune. So he walked for miles and miles, and finally he found a farm. And the farmer was there, and he said, I will pay you anything. Let me rent your truck. He said, my truck is broke. He said, let me rent your car. Don't have no car. He said, what have you got? I have to get to this appointment. He said, I'll give you my donkey. So he said, okay, what do I do? I'm from the city, I'm not used to donkeys. He said, well, you get on him, and you kick him, and you say, go.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. He gets on the donkey, and he says, go. Nothing happens. So he gets on the donkey, he kicks him, he says, go. 3 times, nothing happens. Looks at the farmer, and the farmer says, wait a minute. The farmer picks up a 2x4, hits the donkey on the nose, says, go, and the donkey takes off. He says, first you have to get his attention.